Tens of thousands of US airline workers could soon be grounded permanently. Air travel in the country has fallen sharply due to the coronavirus pandemic. US carriers had agreed to retain their employees in exchange for government-backed loans that helped them stay afloat. But that program expired on Thursday, and politicians have so far been unable to come up with a similar scheme to replace it.
We're hoping for a counter proposal and for a possible stimulus bill to get passed, or at least serious negotiations to be signaled this afternoon. So it's crazy. Tomorrow I'm unemployed, and today I'm waiting for Congress to do something. I'm not sure we've ever seen anything like this before.
The airlines are hoping to receive $25 billion in government support soon. Unless they get the money, American Airlines and United Airlines say they will have to cut 32,000 jobs. And industry representatives say as many as 100,000 aviation workers are at risk of being axed over the next few days. Talks over a stimulus package have been stalled for weeks because the opposition wants the Trump administration to raise the amount of money it's willing to dole out. But negotiations have now resumed, and both sides say they may reach a compromise soon.
Well, the president instructed us to come up significantly, so we have come up from the $1 trillion deal that we had been working on earlier. He's very focused on wanting to make sure that all the people who have been impacted by COVID, no fault of their own, we're delivering relief. As I've said before, our job is not done until we get everybody back to work, and we're going to keep trying.
As businesses reopen after weeks of lockdown, the job market has made a modest recovery. 837,000 new jobless claims were filed last week, down from a peak of 6.9 million in March. But if a new stimulus package isn't launched soon, experts say these nascent gains may be lost, sending the world's largest economy into a nosedive. Mobin Nasir, TRT World.
Let's bring in our senior business producer, Mobin Nasir, who joins us here in Istanbul. Hi, Mobin. Now, basically, we've got two deals now, a $1.6 trillion deal from the Republicans and a $2.2 trillion stimulus bill from the Democrats. Aside from the monetary figure, what are the major differences between the two packages?
Right, so we started with a difference of about $2 trillion and now down to several $100 billion, but it seems progress is being made. Look, one of the biggest sticking points here is that the Democrats want to provide $500 billion directly to the states and another $375 billion to local governments for them to spend not just on COVID relief, but also on economic rehabilitation and revival. The initial plan put forward by the Republicans had no such amount. We also know that in terms of direct payments, both sides agree that $1,200 per person, those checks there should be at least one more round of those checks. But the Republicans wanted to cap that at $2,400 per household. The Democrats are calling for that limit to be much higher at $6,000 per household. There's a similar disagreement over these unemployment benefits. Donald Trump had said that he's okay with that check remaining at $600 per week, as long as $400 out of that are provided by the states. And then similarly, there's also differences over how companies are allowed to deal with this crisis. The Democrats are calling for a new law that would set in place standards and conditions that not just business, but also other institutions like schools have to meet, whereas the Republicans want to provide a kind of a force majeure clause, if you will, so that would basically keep people from suing these establishments if they felt that they had contracted the virus at these establishments. So clearly, a lot of difference across, not just in monetary terms, but also in legal terms as how to deal with the crisis going forward.
Now, it seems like there's been a growing chorus of people calling for a deal to be reached sooner rather than later. We've had US Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell urging Congress to pass any sort of a deal soon. Investors have been eager for one as well, not to mention the tens of millions of ordinary Americans who have lost their jobs. I mean, how important is it that the two sides do come to an agreement sooner rather than later?
It's extremely important right now, of course, cannot sort of overstate the importance of this. Look, we've seen the jobless numbers coming out for last week. slightly lower than expected, but 837,000 people losing their jobs in a week is still a huge number. And that, keep in mind, comes at the back of this crisis when it all began and when the lockdowns started going into place. We've seen the US economy losing more jobs than were created in the previous decade. Just let that sink in. It's a huge number, right? And also, many of the jobs that have still been protected have only been protected because there was state support coming in. Like you saw from my report, there are at least 100,000 workers just in the aviation sector who could be out of not just jobs, but also lose their healthcare and other benefits if there is no deal soon. And the situation is similar across many other sectors. And then, of course, going into this election cycle, really this seems like it is the last real opportunity for the next few months for both sides to be able to come to some kind of compromise, to provide at least some support to the economy.
Okay, TRT World Senior Business Producer Mobin Nasir, thank you for your analysis as always.